To bring in our political analyst, Professor Fernando Guerra from Loyola Marymount University.
Yeah.
Professor,
Good morning.
Thanks so much for joining us once
Absolutely.
again this morning. Lots to talk about. Tuesday, a long night for most of us. The nation, I think it's fair to say, is fairly divided right now. How do you see us moving forward? What's the future of politics right now?
Well, I think the immediate future of politics is what we've talked about at the top of the program, protests. It's just a continuation of the campaign. You know, we are clearly divided geographically, ideologically, and even ethnically and by race. And you see that, you see these protests in cities and states that Clinton clearly won. So many people are saying, hey, why didn't they go out and vote or what have you? It wouldn't have made a difference had you doubled that vote in those particular states. As you can see in the Electoral College system, she ends up winning the majority of the popular vote, but yet the way we do our elections, you know, it turned out differently. So we see the protests in Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Portland, all states that she won. There are a few examples, like in Atlanta, where Trump did win. Georgia might have made a difference there, but
and Dallas.
Actually, yeah, in Dallas. But you know, while the pre-election polls, which were mostly wrong, had a close election in Georgia and even in Texas, the reality was that he won by 8-9 points in some of those states.
Now, Professor, I was with you on election night. We were at the party down in downtown Los Angeles at the Plaza de Cultura and Artes. Obviously, a large Latino population came out for this party. You know, what does this Trump win mean for immigrants and for Latinos? Right.
So one of the things we saw in this election was the largest turnout of Latinos. Okay. And in addition, we also saw Donald Trump receive the less percent of Latinos in the history of a major party candidate. He only received 18% of the Latino vote nationally. And here in California, he didn't even receive 10%. And so you see a big difference in terms of California and the rest of the nation. While the rest of the nation continued to go or went to the right with the Republicans, California went even further left. Hillary Clinton won California by more than any Democrat since World War II. All the liberal initiatives that passed, with the exception of the death penalty and the pharmaceutical, you saw Democrats gain in the state legislature, with a lot of Latinos being part of that. And you saw Donald Trump do terrible in California. He only got in the mid-30s. In LA, Trump only got 13% of the vote. Amongst Latinos, he got less than 10% of the vote. So clearly, Latinos mobilized and voted against Trump. And now you're going to see that continuation in terms of immigration. One of the great challenges for Latinos is going to be that the easiest thing for him to do on his platform is those immigration issues, because they were by executive order by Obama, and he can clearly change those. It'll be easy for him to do with little political cost. And so you see Latinos right now mobilizing. Even though they captured 2 additional congressional seats in California, there are now 12 Latinos in Congress from California, the largest number ever. And so you saw great mobilization, but not the big picture success.
Now, we've talked about the protests. There's also a change.org petition. Is there anything legally, constitutionally, that can actually be done to reverse the vote?
No, I mean, unless there's some new ballots that are found in some of the states that were very close, absolutely not. It's the way we have it. We'll never change it. I used to believe that if we ever had a modern election where the popular vote and the electoral vote were different, that there would be such an uproar. But we saw in 2000 that didn't happen, and again, it didn't happen today. And clearly, the Electoral College system is biased against big states, it's biased against urban states, it's biased against where minorities are. And you see that over and over. It's just the way it is. It actually gives a greater percentage of weight to rural white areas. And so, for instance, California really is only about 21% of the vote that you need to win the Electoral College. But in reality, it should be about 23%. We are underrepresented here in California in terms of our own vote because of the Electoral College system. However, 2/3 of the states are required to change that. They're not going to change that because it would take away power from most of those states. California would want it, New York would want it, you know, but again, you're seeing it's all the liberal states that would want it to have the popular vote go. But, you know, there's going to be ways that you can mobilize and filibuster. Democrats did gain 2 additional seats in the U.S. Senate, and so it's 51-49. It's going to be tough, you know, to filibuster everything, so they're going to have to pick and choose.
All right. Interesting as always, Professor Fernando Guerra from Loyola Marymount University. Thanks for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.